Hi everyone, welcome to video 3 of How to Read Music. This is MK Sounds and today we're going to be looking at notation and rhythms. By the end of this video you will be able to understand and read different rhythm notations within a bar and know how to count them. Rhythms. Rhythms tell us how long to play notes for. They're very important within music. So here are what different rhythms look like. Each note has an assigned number of beats and these are the signs we use. So we have a semi-breve which has a beat value of 4 and the alternative name / American name is whole note. We have a minim which has beat value of 2, a crotchet which has a beat value of 1, a quaver which has a beat value of a half, and a semiquaver which has a beat value of a quarter. Alternative names are often used, well these ones are often used either by American musicians or you might hear drummers saying like 16th notes and 8th notes, so it's just good to kind of know what they mean by that. So essentially the thinking behind the alternative names is if you had a bar of 4 beats, a semi-breve which has a beat value of 4 would take up the whole bar, so they call it a whole note. Makes sense, right? And then same with if we did a minim, if we had a bar of 4 beats, a minim will fill half of those beats, therefore it's a half note. Same with a quarter note, one crotchet, a quarter note is 1 beat of 4, therefore it's quarter. An 8th note is half of a full note, therefore an 1/8 of the full bar. And same for the semiquaver. So it kind of makes sense, but there we go. I think more classical people use semi-breves, minims, crotchets. I'll be referring to it as that throughout the video, but here's just like in case you hear it somewhere else called something else, you'll know what it is. Okay, so rests. Pauses in music are so important. Sometimes not playing anything is more impactful than playing something. So here are what the rests in music are called and look like. So you use the same names as the rhythms. So a semi-breve rest, because a semi-breve rest has the beat value of 4. And it's kind of like, I don't know why, I always call it like an upside down chocolate bar, but it goes on the middle line and this chocolate bar, so the like black square is underneath that line. A minim rest has a beat value of 2 and the chocolate bar goes above the line, and then a crotchet rest looks like a wiggly worm, and a quaver and semi-quaver rest look like the flags of the notes. So you can kind of remember the quaver has 1 flag and a semi-quaver has 2. So when you're writing them on the score, I'm just going to go through the different sections of the note, I guess, so like you know what I mean when I'm referring to a flag and stuff. So the circle bit is called the note head, and that is where if it's coloured in like this, it's a crotchet. If it's got a hole in the middle, then it's a minim. So yeah, if you're drawing it, that's where you make that differentiation. Then we have the stem, and here are the flags. So again, the quaver flag is 1 flag and semiquaver has 2 flags, and this is what they look like upside down, just so you know the direction of the flags. And if you see a single line drawn through the stave, that shows the end of the bar. Stems can be drawn up or down, and this applies to all rhythms but not the rests. So with rests, they are always in the same position. So a semi-breve rest is always on the same line in the same position. So you don't have to worry about stems going up or down. But for crotchets and the other rhythms, this is what the common practice is. So notes below the middle line have stems going up, and then notes above the middle line have stems going down, and then notes on the middle line usually go up, but sometimes you might see composers write them going down as well, so kind of just like that's kind of preference, it could go either way. But yeah, having stems in different direction is just to make it easier to read. So like from a glance you can tell that note is above B, so it's just kind of easier for someone to read. Beaming. When writing multiple quavers and semiquavers, the stems can join, and this is called beaming. And again, this is so it's easier to read rather than having like lots and lots of flags everywhere and individual notes. You can just beam them together and it's nice and neat. So if you were going to group quavers, you would group them like this. This is a group of 4 quavers, and as you can see, it's one flag going across the whole thing. And if you're going to group 2 quavers, this is how they would look. And this is just the same rhythms, just on different lines, so you can kind of see stems going up and down and different groups. Beaming semiquavers is kind of a similar thing, but you have 2 flags going through. So here you can see semiquavers grouped in 4s. Here they're grouped in 2s. And this is what they look as singles, just in case you wanted to see that. So grouping semiquavers with quavers, so you can group any number of notes together really in terms of quavers, semiquavers, and we'll go on to dotted notes and stuff later. But this is how a quaver and 2 semiquavers would look. So as you can see, the quaver has 1 flag going across, and then when you hit the semiquavers, you have 2 flags. And then this is the reverse, so 2 semiquavers got 2 flags and then 1 flag for the quaver. So that's just like standardized. If you had that grouping, this is how you would draw them. And if you put these together like this, that's what they'd look like in a bar. And this bar is adding up to 4 crotchet beats value. And let's see how you would count this. So if you were reading this, how would you count these rhythms? So counting beats in a bar. So we know that these are going to add up to, each bar is going to add up to 4 crotchet beats. So you can literally take the beat value and just add them up. So you know a quaver is half, a semiquaver is quarter, and another semiquaver is a quarter, and that all adds up to 1. Then we have a crotchet rest, which is 1. Then we have 2 semiquavers, so a quarter and a quarter, and then a quaver, which is 1. Which is a half, and that adds up to 1, and then another rest. So then you can kind of create this pyramid. So we've got 1 and 1 is 2, and on the other half of the bar 1 and 1 is 2, and that all adds up to 4. And it would be the same for the second bar. It's the same rhythms. The stems are just drawn down just so you can see what that would look like. So some other common ways to count rhythms that people find useful. So if you're counting crotchets, it's often just 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're counting quavers, because 2 quavers fits into 1 crotchet, you add an and, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then if you're doing semiquavers, it's 1 e and a 2 e and a 3 e and a 4 e and a. And this is kind of like the subdivision of notes. So if you had 1 crotchet, you could fit 2 quavers in a crotchet, and you can fit 4 semiquavers in a quaver. So yeah, that subdivision kind of will make sense later in the video, but just kind of remember, if you're counting crotchets, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're counting quavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if you're counting semiquavers, 1 e and a 2 e and a 3 e and a 4 e and a. So we're just going to go through some examples to kind of put that into practice. So if we take the rhythms we had earlier, the bold letters and numbers is where you would clap. So you would count this. This probably wasn't the easiest example for me to lead with, but there we go, we have it up. So you would count this in semiquavers, just to make it easier, because you know that 2 semiquavers would fit into that quaver, so 1 e and a. So you'd clap, if you were clapping, we'd clap on the 1 and the and a, so 1 e and a, then rest, 2 e and a, then 3 e and a, 4 e and a. So kind of, it might be complicated, but yeah, that's kind of how this works. I should have led with this one, it's a lot simpler example, but quavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then second bar is the same. So if we were clapping this, it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So obviously you don't clap on the rest. So a quick summary. I feel like I kind of jumbled the last bit, but there we go. A summary: 1 crotchet equals 2 quavers, and a quaver, which is the same as 4 semiquavers. So in other words, 1 crotchet is 1 beat, 2 quavers is 1 beat, and 4 semiquavers is 1 beat, which is again the subdivision of rhythms. So now we've covered the basics, let's look at some more complicated rhythms. we have dotted rhythms, and they can look like this. So as you can see, a small dot is placed after the note on the right side. So this is a dotted minim. So how do you work out the beat value of a dotted rhythm? So you have the beat value of the note plus half the beat value. So the dot is essentially half the beat value that you add onto the note. So we know that a minim has a beat value of 2, and then half of this value is 1, so the dot's value is 1. So if you add 2 and 1, 3. So a dotted minim has the beat value of 3. Another complicated rhythm is tied notes. So a tied note is where you have two notes joined together, often looking like this. So here's a minim and a crotchet that have been tied together, and if you were playing this, you would slur or phrase the notes. So that means you don't make the differentiation between 2 beats and 1 beat. You just kind of play it as if it's a 3-beat note. And yeah, that's kind of similar to a dotted rhythm, but having tied notes can help create a swing, especially if it's tied over the bar, which is the next example. So here you can see the tie happens over the bar, and so you would play this as so you play the crotchet and the minim as if it was 3 beats. So because you're tying over the bar and you're not making that clear distinction between the end of one bar, the start of the next, that's where a swing can occur, and you can kind of play around with how the rhythms of the piece can feel. So yeah, instead of playing, so if this was 4, so it's 4, so instead of playing beat 4 and then beat 1 tongued separately, you would just play beat 4 and then carry on holding that breath, not tonguing it, so phrasing it into beats 1 and 2 into the next bar, if that makes sense. Another rhythm you might see is a triplet. Triplets kind of add a bounce to the rhythm. They're quite cool. So it's basically where you try and fit 3 notes into the space of 1 beat. So if we had a bar of 4 crotchet beats and one of those is a triplet, you would fit 3 notes into the space of 1 crotchet, and we can use one-ander to help us fit the notes into the space. So here's an example. So you can see the first beat is a triplet, so we have to fit 3 notes into 1 beat. So it'd be 1-under, 2, 3, 4, 1-under, 2, 3, 4, and you can hear it kind of creates that skip. And if we just place the triplet somewhere else, so we have it on the second beat, so it'd be 1, 2-under, 3, 4, 1, 2-under, 3, 4. So the 2-under just helps fit all of it in, 2-under. Yeah. Tied notes, dotted notes, different ways to count rhythms and beat values is all again linked to time signatures, which is what we're going to look at in the next video. So understanding the rhythms, how they're written, the different phrases, how they're beamed is kind of the basics which build up onto time signatures, which is where you look at how to know what rhythms and how many rhythms can be placed together and where you emphasize the beat and all of that lovely stuff. So we will look at that again in the next video. So thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comment below. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, especially subscribe. You don't want to be missing another one of these videos, and follow MK Sounds on Instagram for more musical content, and I'll see you next week.